Former President Ian Khama speaking to Sipho Mantula. Well, for more on this, we're now joined via Zoom by African Affairs Analyst, Advocate Sipho Mantula. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Brother Peter. Evening and Jumbo Africa to the viewers. Dumela.
All right. Look, it's a bit sad that perhaps an important gathering this week between Botswana and South Africa may be overshadowed by what's happening to former President Khama. But let's start with the bilateral relations between the two countries that should be being cemented this week.
No, correctly, Brother Peter. You'll understand that this meeting comes under the cloud that both leaders have never met as the president when they came into power in 2018. So this is a meeting that has been critical, that you will always, before they meet on Friday, you'll have what they call the BNC, the Binational Commissions, where they will talk about issues of trade, they will talk about issues of peace, security in the SADC region. As you know, that both countries were part of the Troika dealing with the issue of the north part of Mozambique. So this meeting of minds is very critical, but like you have said, you have what you can say, extradition might be on the table, but I don't think so, because here is a trial coming up tomorrow of the former head of state. But at the same time, I think this bi-national commission, it is very important to look at the relationship between South Africa and Gaborone. Actually, you can say Tshwane, and even Gaborone have to engage on this issue of the former president, which has already suffocated, strained our diplomatic relations, not only from him, you know, Peter, because, I mean, there is another former king somewhere in the other province who has been exiled here. So there have been many challenges between Tshwane and even Gaborone, but this meeting of minds by the two leaders will have to elevate, because others, they have said, Masisi, have been avoiding even the SADC Troika meetings to come and meet with President Ramaphosa. So we do expect this bi-national commission for them to engage on national interest of both countries.
Might the issue of a former president come up in this meeting at all?
Well, you know, one will say that yes, it might come up, because if you remember, me and you last time when we spoke about it was once there was the Mandamus application by AfriForum on the then case of President Mokgweetsi, and President Ramaphosa by then sent Lindiwe Sisulu as a minister to go engage with Gaborone on this issue. Now you will expect him again to say, look at the courts tomorrow. Now the former president is being charged, the amended charges, a almost 23-page document that has brought 3 other members who were in the security cluster into these charges. So they might have to engage it, because corruption, it is corruption, but this one is not only corruption, but it's issues that even they threaten national security. When you think of weapons, that somebody has weapons that were unlawful, receiving weapons that were stolen, there were government weapons. So there's a lot, you know, Brother Pete, if you have to look at this, but diplomatically one will assume both presidents have to deal with that elephant in the room.
And this is not an ordinary citizen that we're talking about here, and he said some pretty serious things about the current administration. Extradition does exist between Botswana and South Africa, and so what might that mean?
You know, one thing that I think our viewers, they know very well, Gaborone and Tshwane, and looking at his family, the former head of state, even in South Africa, has a family. The issue of self-imposed exile, I think he has been trying to put it aside. And at the same time, the issue of extradition, it has never been received even so far. The main issue is that having a former president alleging about how he has been paged by the former president, that makes it difficult even for us to interfere. Because like we are saying, these matters are now before the court. It is almost 7 years of this case that has been taking place, even when you are still the head of state. Remember that before he can hand over, these charges started to come out from 2016. And that's where now it is quite difficult for even South Africa to say, but we don't want to interfere. But at the same time, it doesn't give confidence, credibility to even the SADC HQ. The head office of SADC is based in Gaborone. And secondly, South Africa and even Gaborone have been having many bi-national commissions from the then President Nelson Mandela to Ramaphosa now. So it is very important for us to know that issues of national security, and again, Peter, one thing that is complex again in this matter is the role of even intelligence, which I don't want us to miss it in our engagement. That how do we even understand the role of intelligence? Is it maybe even us? We have gone through that. We have tried to cleanse, hence we have the Mafumadi report. Is it the same problem that maybe both the former president and the current president have not cleansed their intelligence services? Hence they have been caught up now in this mess between the two leaders, which at some point it was a political contestation of power, which I think Masisi was able to can even get more votes than him during the last election. So that's how you can look at that dynamics of Gaborone, and Tshwane will always try to be very careful not to interfere, but I don't think Tshwane has to be quiet because we have been implicated in several ways.
I suppose diplomatically this is a bit of a minefield because on the one hand, South Africa doesn't want to antagonize, but they are, and I'll use this word, harboring a wanted suspect who's supposed to be appearing in court. So summons must have been issued, and so he now is a fled person. On the other hand, Botswana, I guess, can't afford to antagonize or upset Pretoria because this is a relationship that they need as well.
No, correctly. And that issue of us being that host of fugitives or former heads of state, Brother Peter, I said to someone of academics, I said, I think we have been naturalized hosts of exiles from Aristide, many President Ravalo Manana, Rick Machar, I can mention them, Peter, that many leaders, even church leaders who run away from their own countries, they harbor themselves in this country. Rwandese, intelligent. I think our rule of law and our engagement, as you said, diplomatically we are under stress in terms of how we're going to manage. More so, we will assume that even if it was charges against the former head of state, presidential immunity should have been looked into. Issues of engagement between the two leaders so that it doesn't become a diplomatic row when we have this bi-national commission taking place tomorrow and even on Friday. And at the same time, others will say, is it the timing of the amended charge sheet that have come forth that he has been charged with more than 13 charges now? And other colleagues as well, the other one in the head of intelligence with more than 20. And at the same time, you see that this has been a dragging matter, and the former head of state has been in exile in this country. But I've said earlier, you might say exile, but you might say, but I'm visiting my family. I have my relatives even in this side of the border. So that's how you can look at the thinking of that. Diplomatically, yes, Tshwane doesn't have to be relaxed. Tshwane has to engage, like I said earlier, in terms of giving advice to say, how do you deal with this? Because, like I said earlier, Brother Peter, Wali Munyarere used to say, when the two elephants are fighting, it's the grass that suffers. Even when lovers make love, it's the grass that suffers. That's what Nyarere will have said. So between Masisi and Mokgweetsi, when they are in this conflict, it's the people of Botswana and the Botswana young people and nation that suffers in terms of economical growth, in terms of fighting all these epidemics and even pandemics and many social ills that are facing Gaborone. Similarly, South Africa too will not want to be a harbor of fugitives from justice all the time, because others, they are coming under political exile, but others are coming under a pledge of a current leader.
Once very loyal to President Khama, President Masisi, how did this relationship disintegrate to this level? Because some people from the outside looking in may be saying that this might be about these two people more than it is about the charges on the table.
Yeah, No, correct. Well, what I've picked up is that their relationship, as you said, being his deputy during that time and being the one who actually anointed Masisi to be his deputy, one would have said that he would not have wanted to serve the third term. Maybe he saw Masisi as a proxy, as a yes man that will take everything. And maybe Masisi saw something that perhaps we have never thought of in that presidential office, that he included these issues of weapons that are being used for hunting, weapons that he is alleging that he has been having them all along. The issues of his security detail being limited. I think that he said those were presidential privileges that have been there. And maybe when the new guard comes in, he wanted to reduce them and deal with the national issues of the country. And that's why you said it will normally happen. If you're saying like what I said earlier, your Salva Kiir and your Riek Machar, they were good friends. You don't know what really happened even there. You have many leaders who become best friends but end up become enemies and become worst enemies. But we never anticipated this. But even the issue of ethnic tribalism from that country, it has been coming from there. If I can tell you that both Masisi and Khama, Brother Peter, they are not coming from the same tribal clan. So again, you might have those dynamics of culture and even diversity that they should have managed for the sake of the Botswana nation and growth and even development. Because, like I said earlier, if they can never smoke that peace pipe, then you need mediators. And it was only from one side. What we saw is that when Khama was always visiting this country, he will always be telling the media that I'm engaging former heads of state, I'm engaging SADC, but we never heard the voice of Masisi. Maybe it is what the media must engage Masisi when he's in Tshwane on Friday, Brother Peter, to say, what is the beef between you and the former head of state?
Advocate Sipho Mantula, I think this story is going to run for quite a while, but let's see what happens this week, and let's hope that the important issues between the two countries don't get overshadowed by this drama that's playing out right now. Thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Asante sana, Brother Peter.
All right, that's Advocate Sipho Mantula speaking to us about this challenging time that Botswana is going through. The former President Ian Khama saying that he's fearful for his life. He says that the current administration are coming after him. He says he's done nothing wrong, but he's facing 13 charges. And this is ahead of a bilateral meeting between Botswana and South Africa.